Well, hello everyone. My name's Matt Temley. I'm from The Stage newspaper, and I'm over the moon to be here today to help launch this really exciting project. And if you've been following the Twitter feeds for Curve over the last couple of weeks, you may have seen the hashtag, Can You Keep a Secret? Well, I'm delighted that the secret is finally out and we can all talk about it. It is, of course, Sue Townsend's The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 3/4, the musical, which is hugely exciting, and it will be opening at Curve in Leicester next March, which is fantastic. I saw a workshop of this show at the end of last year, and I have to say, like everybody else in the room, we were bowled over by the warmth and charm of this show, everything you expect a musical based on Sue Townsend's book to have. And if you saw a couple of weeks ago, they announced Nikolai Foster as artistic director here from next year. He said on the record that he wants this theatre to be the home for new British musical theatre. And I think this musical puts it well on the way to making that happen. So without further ado, let's meet the people behind this fantastic project. You've got Fiona Allen, who's Chief Executive of Curve, Chris Stafford, who's Executive Producer, Jake Brunger, who's written the book and the lyrics to the musical, Pippa Cleary, who's written the music and the lyrics, and if you saw In the Heights in London, if you were lucky enough to see it at the Southwark Playhouse earlier this year, a fantastic production led by Luke Shepherd, who's going to direct the Adrian Mole musical. So welcome everyone and thank you for being here. If we could start with Jake, I wondered if you could tell us how it came about. How did the project start?
Well, it was kind of quite a serendipitous coming together of events, really, and lots of lovely connections and ways into Curve. I'd actually trained as a playwright on a writing scheme led by Leicester Haymarket and Nottingham Playhouse. I'm actually from Nottingham. So that was how I'd sort of, when I was 17, trained as a writer. And then many years later, I sent on spec a play to Paul Kerrison saying, I thought this might be suitable, would you be interested? And he read it and said, absolutely, this sounds like quite a good studio project for the theatre. And at the same time, obviously, I've been working with Pippa, and Luke and I had met at university, and we all did, and we'd worked together a lot. And we'd written a musical in our final year, which had been to Edinburgh Festival, and Paul had also seen that and put two and two together. And I said at the time, have you ever thought about Adrian Mole as a musical? And obviously being a Leicester project. And he said, oh yeah, let's explore that. And it really was that kind of coming together of us three and Luke, and of the book, the rights being available at the time, because there was a film in the works for many years. And the way that it works is there's a window where you go, right, those film options have expired. And we sort of leapt in and went, let's write the musical in that time.
Wow. And it is a really important project for Leicester, isn't it, Fiona? Because it's set in Leicester.
Yeah, I think this musical has a great opportunity for Leicester and lots of ways that people can get involved too, we can talk about.
Okay.
But I think it can help put Leicester on the map with Curve. And I think we really hope that it will become synonymous with Leicester in the same way that a musical like Mary Poppins is so definitely set in London, or The Full Monty is so definitely set in Sheffield. This is a musical that really is about Leicester. Of course, Adrian is Leicester's favourite son. And I think all throughout the musical it reflects this city, and we hope that the people here really get behind it and are very proud of that fact.
And perhaps, Pippa, could you tell us how Sue was involved creatively in the process?
Oh, she was an absolute dream to work with. She was so supportive of us, I think, because we were so nervous, obviously, to begin with, and we'd bring her songs and scripts, and she sort of went through everything with us, and lots of lovely lunches round at her house going through lyrics and scenes like that. And I think it was lovely for Jake, because you really were able to capture her voice with her. She really embraced Jake's, writing.
When we sort of started working, obviously I brought the book with me today because this has absolutely been our Bible.
It has.
And we have stuck to this very, very closely. And I also wanted to get into Sue's voice, so I read her autobiography, which isn't a conventional autobiography. It's actually a collection of her Sainsbury's magazine monthly columns. I really recommend it. It's available on Amazon. And bookshops as well. But what it was about, and what was great for me to read that, adapting this for stage, was I really wanted to get a sense of her voice and also her personality and what she was interested in. And that was the best thing about meeting her, was actually I could then take all the stuff that had been in the book and be like, I think the same as well. And we really bonded over Jeremy Kyle.
And she gave us so much time. She really gave us all the time in the world to get it right, and we just felt so welcomed.
We could email her and phone her. I remember one email she sent saying, make sure you get some sleep.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Luke, what are you hoping to achieve with the stage production? What feel are you going for? Can you give us any clues at this stage?
One of the reasons that we wanted to do this together is Jake and I and Pippa all just fell in love with the book as teenagers. And one of the things that I learnt talking to Sue was actually when she wrote it, it was originally with adults in mind. And going back and rereading it, there are so many things that I kind of look at now and go, oh gosh, that never really made sense when I was 13 3/4 reading it. And I think what we really want to capture is the rediscovery of it by a generation that grew up with the novel, so that it speaks to a new generation of young people that are coming to see it, but also to parents who were growing up with it at the same time. So something that makes the novel ready for 2014, but is actually true and respectful to the piece.
And Chris, you had a relationship with Sue, didn't you? You had quite a close relationship with her.
Luke and I actually met with Sue a few weeks before she passed away. And what was great is at that time we were able to say we are definitely doing the show. It's going to happen next year and world premiere at Curve. And also she was really excited about it and was really, really buoyed up about the idea for a new generation, and that we would produce a show that would be for the fans of the book, but also introduce potential new fans to the Adrian Mole series. And very much, I asked a question which was, what should we be saying to the writers? Because Sue was our lead creative on this project. And Sue replied back saying, well, as long as they stick to the book, they'll be fine. And what's brilliant is that the books are on the laps.
I mean, it's quite a daunting task, isn't it, taking such a much-loved book and bringing it to the stage in a musical form. And you've got to please a lot of people there. Is that a pressure for you?
Do you know what? We're quite lucky in that we never felt it. That when I was writing it, because she was so open and so sort of chill, because she'd had a successful career as a playwright, she knew that adapting other works and that creating something for dialogue was a different process to writing a novel. So she wasn't precious, or she understood that there was a process. And what we've done is we've realigned events. It's stuck very closely, but there have to be, because obviously there has to be an interval point, there has to be a dramatic climax, where the audience go out going, what's going to happen next? And piecing together that storyline and going, okay, at what point is the best moment that this could happen? But it wasn't radical. It was just a sort of really nice sort of journey.
It stings so naturally, the book. So I think we were just so excited, and rather than worried about how to do it, it did come quite naturally, which is a very good thing. And we was, oh yeah, that's a song, and oh God, look at that bit. So yeah,
it did sing out when you read it, sort of going, because it's an internal diary,
Exactly.
It's thoughts, and that's the best thing that song is, because song takes off where actually you can't say it anymore in speech.
Exactly, and the expression of the songs is sort of Adrian's, inner self. So it was really good fun. Such fun in the writing.
Yeah.
As I said at the start, I saw the workshop, and I wondered, Fiona, how important was the workshop for you? We were in London, and everyone, all the great and good of London, came to see it. How important was that process?
Incredibly important. Was really the turning point from Curve's point of view with the project, because we'd commissioned Jake and Pippa to write the piece alongside the Royal and Derngate in Northampton. It was a co-commission at the time, and we'd gotten to the point. It was the third workshop by the time we were in London, wasn't it? We'd had two beforehand. So the piece had been developed over a couple of years, and then the week in London last year, and then the workshop performance at which we invited a lot of guests from the theatre industry to come in and to be a new sets of eyes and to see what sort of potential this work would have. And the reception to it was amazing. I mean, we'd booked the American Bar at the Prince of Wales Theatre, and which seats about 100 people, and actually couldn't get a seat in there for the number of people who'd turned up from the theatre industry who were really interested in it. And the buzz in the room was electric, and at the end there was an ovation, but people genuinely really loved it. And we started getting all sorts of inquiries from producers who wanted to get involved. And that, of course, is exactly where you want to be. It was the point at which it went from being a commission to being a show we were really committed to getting on our stages. And we've partnered now with a commercial producing company, PW Productions in London, who are helping us to bring it here, and then we hope have a future life afterwards.
Okay, and so that's your ambition to take it, around the country?
Yes, well, there is a tour being planned.
Okay.
Can't yet be announced. That can be another announcement, Matt, but yes, certainly a tour. And, we really think this piece could have a very long life. We'd love it to go into London.
Yeah.
Of course we would.
be a dream, wouldn't it, to have a West End production.
And
And what did you, Pippa, Jake, what did you learn from the workshop process? I mean, things are changing all the time, I guess, at the moment.
I think what was brilliant about the October workshop, it was the first time we had used children, because previously we'd used adults, and I think that this was mainly your idea, and it just really, as soon as you see the actors with the children, everything, you go, oh yeah, this, maybe we need to change this song, or something, but it just really set the tone of what we wanted it to be, and obviously the response was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, and workshops can be such a funny thing. The word sounds very sort of luxurious, and this idea that everyone sits around kind of really getting to grips with the piece is brilliant, but then on the last day you're sort of working towards this event. And we had all of these actors that we'd roped in who we were very fond of, and basically taught them the show in a week, well, in 4 days.
3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
And tried to get to grips with what was going on, and especially working with children who were just phenomenal. And actually, we borrowed a couple of them today who are going to sing one of the songs later on. They kindly volunteered to head up here as well. So when it came to the workshop, we were all kind of stood at the back like this, and you never know exactly what's going to happen. But when that response came, I just think it was relief more than anything.
It was.
We just kind of, that people bought into the voice that we'd found.
And it is such a British musical, which is something that we hear quite a lot in the industry, that there isn't enough British musical theatre on the stage. So it's lovely to have this coming. And do you notice that well, all of you, do you notice that there's a lack of British musical theatre at the moment?
I think it depends where you look, really. I mean, one of the reasons I'm really excited about working at Curve is I've been sort of doing the pilgrimage ever since it opened with Cinderella right back at the very beginning, and it's starting to get that reputation. If you look at how it's been a launch pad for a lot of that work, along with the brilliant stuff that Paul Kereson's been doing with the revivals of Chicago and Hairspray. And I think the work is out there. The writers of new British musicals are putting that work together, but it's a huge risk for a building to take a gamble on something like that. So I think this is hopefully an example of a theatre putting their kind of money where their mouth is and bringing it through. But the new British musical as an idea is very important to us. The first show that we ever did that we took to Edinburgh, the strapline on the bottom of it was a new British musical. And particularly because it is such a British story, it feels right that it has that British voice to it.
I think with Maid and Dagenham coming out later this year, and obviously the success of Matilda, there is it's slowly on the turn. I think it's about finding the ways of, we're obviously a very young emerging team, but couple it with a sort of a well-known British, like Maid and Dagenham, a film title or a novel title. I think that's there's a lot of sometimes a bit of snobbery around that about films, it's another film adaptation. Yeah. But that's brilliant. There's a reason why that is, because films are very well structured, and it's a great way of letting emerging writers coupled with an existing title that people know.
Yeah. Yes, I think as Luke said, it's where you look, but I think it's very hard for new musicals to be developed. A lot goes into it. Years has gone into this, but I think it's very important, especially for the media, you're all here, to give new musicals a chance. And I think especially of Water Babies, which was premiered here just recently, and it was a brand new musical. It was a brand new British musical. They had very big plans for it. And what we saw was it sold lots of tickets, audiences liked it, it had a standing ovation every night. Audiences were writing letters to local papers saying how much they liked it. And it was absolutely murdered in the national press. National press came and said it was a terrible show. And the national press pretty much killed it off, I think. They killed off any chance of it having, an immediate life.
Right, okay.
And I think there has to be a responsibility, if we want a new British musical, for people to understand that risks are being taken and that shows need to be developed, and to give things a chance.
Even if they have to be honest too, and to give their honest opinion?
I think there's honest and there's nasty.
Okay.
and
warned.
No, I think people have to be honest.
Yeah.
This is my personal opinion. It was just with that production, which was a production that people were loving. The audiences loved it. A lot of critics obviously didn't, but they were quite vitriolic, I thought, in their response to it.
Yeah. Well, obviously this helps. You've got such a great brand. Adrian Mole is, it's already got an audience who are going to be desperate to see it. And Pippa, I'm not asking you to tell us exactly how the music score came about, but what kind of ideas have you gone for musically? What can we expect?
I think there's a lot of variety. We haven't sort of gone for one specific style, because Adrian's voice it's so
Eclectic.
Yeah, exactly. And so we want the show to very much feel like it's sort of coming from his point of view rather than a commentary on the situation.
So, for example, when
yeah.
when his mother is having an affair with the next door neighbour, he imagines that through song as being a sort of high octane Latino seduction number with, you know, a big dance break in the middle where they're, you know, all the pots and pans in the kitchen are sort of, you know, flaring and
yeah.
they're
And when
being
he falls for
around.
Pandora, you know, it's true love and it's, you know,
A big
huge
emotional
soaring.
ballad.
So I tried to make the music really follow Adrian's state of mind rather than trying to impose any kind of styles on it. And I think we decided we didn't want to try and root it in any given period, because obviously, like Luke says, we're trying to bring it so it's appropriate for audiences now, and, you know, it's a sort of timeless thing.
And Adrian has such an extraordinary imagination. You know, if you read those diaries, the words that he chooses and the things he chooses to talk about, actually, once you just get inside his head, those colours are there.
And they sing.
And they sing,
so
exactly.
Well. Yeah.
There are so many references, obviously, to the 80s in the book. So, but what makes it relevant still, do you think?
This is something Sue was very interested in when we very first met her. She said, you know, it's been 30 years since I've written the book. Why now? And I said, because the fact is, teenagers are teenagers. No matter, you know, whether they're smartphones or not, you still get spots, you still get a first girlfriend. And for me personally, the thing that I'm proudest of in bringing this to stage is that it's essentially a story about parental separation. And in 1981, that was a big deal. For your parent, and Adrian says, Mr. and Mrs. Lucas are getting a divorce. They're the first down our road. You just don't expect it in a cul-de-sac. On my cul-de-sac that I grew up now, it's kind of like, which ones haven't been divorced?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really important story to tell, and how a child and how a teenager goes through that happening in his house, and the heartache of having to go and visit his mother when she's moved away, and both of the parents in the show get new partners. And that's something I've been through personally, and a lot of kids
really
will relate to that.
It's for us as well. There's something about Adrian being an everyman, and when we spoke to Sue, she'd often speak about Adrian still being alive and walking around and doing what Adrian does. And every now and then he'd pop back and see Sue and tell her what he was up to and write another diary, and then he'd go and disappear again and wander around and do what he does. And we like the thought that he'll buy a ticket today, hopefully, and come and see the show that's in his name next year. And though he'd probably object to being called an everyman and object to be called an underdog, that is exactly what he is, really. And he likes to think of himself as an intellectual, and perhaps he hasn't got the evidence to prove that yet, but he's fighting for his cause. And I think that is something that everybody can relate to. And Sue quotes D.H. Lawrence at the start of the novel and talks about a boy wandering around with things inside him that he can never say to his mother. And on the outside, you know, he has this pretense that everything's fine. And again, that's something that, as a teenager, I relate to, and maybe our teenagers who are performing us today can relate to as well, that you keep these secrets which to you mean the absolute world, but you can't ever discuss with the outside. And that's what makes it a secret. And I think that is still absolutely tangible in 2014. So while the references are still there, I love it when Jake talks about the royal wedding. They talk about the royal wedding in the novel. And looking at, you know, the wedding that we had recently in the royal family, that's absolutely something that
yeah, the sense of having because Act 2 opens with them having a party or watching Princess Diana and Charles get ready, and that's just like Kate and Will's. And you know, I remember sitting watching Sky News live birth of the baby, being like, you know, I know, time on my hands. But it's true, you know, patriotism and that kind of culture doesn't go away. I think. And you'll see that all in the musical.
And like you say, it's so nice to be able to bring a really British
sound
to, because there are many, obviously mostly American musicals, so we really enjoyed that.
And I think it's teenagers dreaming as well. I think there's something about when he's writing to the BBC and he's sending his poems off. I think a lot of us did those types of things.
Yeah.
And
I did.
It connects with where we were.
Yeah.
And I mean, this musical only really came about from writing letters to Curve and saying,
yeah,
you know, we'd really like to write a musical. Will you let us do it?
Yeah.
And, you know, we got the letters back that said, keep trying. And eventually they took the gamble. And
Well, very quickly, because I know we're going to hear performance from the show in a moment, but just a quick word on casting. Any clues as to when that's going to be or when that's going to happen?
So we're pulling up our dream list, and those conversations have started. And it's going to be a very demanding show. To step into the shoes of these characters is going to be an extraordinary task. and we're looking out there at the moment. We probably shouldn't say anything just yet. Something that we are clear on is we're going to need an extraordinary bunch of young people to play Adrian, Pandora, Barry and Nigel, which are the key young company that drive the narrative. So we're going to be doing a search for those at some point, and that will be split into a few different teams that rotate into that part. It's quite a tour de force for whoever's playing that title role. He's got his name on the poster in big print, and we're going to be searching far and wide to make sure that we find those young people who are ready to take that on. Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily mean bringing bag loads of experience or what some people I guess would call stage hours, but the right sort of personality and essence, because everybody has their own Adrian in their head. When you read that novel, you kind of sketch out the character in your own mind. And we need to be going out there and finding young people who don't necessarily subscribe to that, but offer us something new and fantastic in those shoes.
And Fiona, when do tickets go on sale? Important question.
Oh, I'll let Chris talk about that actually, because he's
We-
got all the
we
information,
go
but
on
it's right
sale.
now, really.
In fact, that's perfect. We go on sale in 5 minutes'
Wow.
time to our members. So there'll be priority booking for our members from today. Then tomorrow, any Penguin subscribers, Penguin the publisher, not the bird, subscribers, they can book from tomorrow. From Wednesday, anyone who lives in an LE postcode,
So it's
goes on
Leicester and Leicestershire.
Leicester and Leicestershire, on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, it's general on sale.
Wow.
So we thought it was really important for people in Leicester and Leicestershire to have
First dibs.
first
Yeah.
dibs at the
Yeah,
best seats.
nice. And Fiona, how can people get involved?
Well, we're looking for sponsors. I mean, we think there's a huge opportunity here, actually, and we're looking for principal sponsors and a range of sponsorship packages that include everything from being able to own an entire performance and, buy out the entire theatre and have your, company name on the outside of the building. There are opportunities to meet the cast and the writers and all sorts. So we have sponsorship packages that we would love to be able to share with people.
So get in touch.
Yes, please.
Well, we are going to hear, as I said, we're going to hear a performance now from the show, and then afterwards we're going to take some questions from the floor. But in the meantime, the song's called Now That I'm With You, and it's sung by Adam Scotland and Emily Lane, who were part of the workshop last year. So do enjoy.
Pandora,
Yes, Adrian.
I've written a new poem. Would you like to hear it?
Oh, of course. What a treat.
It's called Bert Baxter by Adrian Mole, age 14, 3 months and 27 days. Bert, you are dead old. Fond of dogs, beetroot and woodbines. I'm 14 and a quarter. You are 89. You smell. I don't. Why we are friends is a mystery to me.
It doesn't rhyme.
I know. That's intentional.
Oh, wow. I never knew that you could be so deep. When I hear your words, I want to weep. Nothing can compare. What you have is rare. You're the new Voltaire.
Of course.
Suddenly, my senses start to stir. Suddenly, my heart begins to whir. And I think perhaps you'd feel it too if I were with you.
What do you mean with me? You're standing right there.
No, Adrian. I mean as in your girlfriend.
Oh wow, if you're my girlfriend, I would write you poems every day. Take you to the Pizza Hut buffet. Buy you new shampoo. Take you to the zoo. Phone you on the loo.
Oh, darling, that's lovely.
I'll be there to walk you home from school. Take you to the local swimming pool. It'll be amazing, folks, you'll see, if you were with me.
We could live in a house with a garden and pond, running a shelter for the poor.
We will fight for a cause that is worthy and true, marching the streets to stop the war.
We will restructure the to do. I know I can do it with you. With you. Where did you learn to dance like that?
The sweetest entry of the 1979 Eurovision Song Contest.
Oh yeah! And when the world is cured of all disease, when we've stopped the felling of the trees, when I get the vote,
When I give a quote,
everyone will listen. We will be the saviors of the land, both of us together, hand in hand. We will free Tibet from China too. We will stage a coup. Think of all the things that we could do.
we will stop our schools from serving stew. Everything we wanted will come true. Now that I'm with you. Pandora, are we in love?
Of course, darling. Whatever in love means.
Adam Scotland and Emily Lane, brilliant performance, and it makes me want to see it now. I wish we could see it next week, but we'll have to wait till March. But I'm going to open the questions now to the floor. If you put your hand up, could you wait for the microphone to come to you, just because it's on stream and we need to make sure we can hear you. So does anybody have any questions? Don't be shy. Yes, oh, gentleman here, if we can get a microphone to the middle table.
Hi, is this on? Hello. You mentioned you bonded with Sue Townsend over Jeremy Kyle.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's obviously an obscure programme to love, but like as a playwright, they are real people on Jeremy Kyle. People often find that really funny, and the people on Jeremy Kyle, let's not go into that too much, but they are mocked and they are like sort of derided. But like one of my family members nearly went on it once, which is a whole other story altogether. But they are real people, and that's what Sue was. She was a writer of the people, and the fact that she stayed in Leicester, she kept her finger on the pulse, you know, for her entire life. Just before she passed away, we had lunch with her, and we were talking about Justin Bieber's conviction for driving under the influence. That's the kind of, you know, information she still enjoyed. Yeah. She loved all that, and Big Brother as well, because it's real people and real voices. But yeah, that was what we bonded over.
I love that. Do we have a question over here as well? Yes, on the microphone here.
I was just wondering how long you've been working on the musical for in total. I've got another question after.
It started.
It's been on and off.
Yeah, obviously we don't work on it, you know,
every
full time.
day or no.
It was November. It was exactly 3 years ago, almost to the month, that we put that casual request into Sue's agent, and the film expired in the October. So we put together the first 15 minutes in November 2011. Yeah, November, December. And we came up in January 2012 and played
it to
Sue and her husband and her son came to Curve and heard
and
the
Jake
first 15 minutes.
and I performed the whole thing. With
all the roles together.
Yeah, always good.
And then we went off and we wrote the whole of Act 1 in a month. And we came back, so we were so keen and so eager. When she said, absolutely, go and write some more, we came back with the whole of Act 1 in a month and played the rest to her. And so it was a very quick process from then on.
And then after that, we sort of formed up 4 or 5 months to do Act 2, and then I think we had a bit of a hiatus, and then we came back to it again last year. So it's been on and off, but I think
about 2 years.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Thank you. Also, how important is it for you to find Leicester, Adrian?
I think it's absolutely something that we're hoping that we can make happen. Ever since we've decided that we're taking the jump on this, I've been up and chatting to the youth theatre up here. They do some incredible work, both with their young company and in their community company. And when we go out looking for Adrian, this is absolutely going to be one of our hubs where we want to try and find some of those young people from. And having seen the work up here already, I'd be very surprised if amongst our young company there wasn't a strong representation from Leicester. And again, you know, like we've been saying, it absolutely is a story that's heart beats in time to the kind of Leicester rhythm. So we'd be completely naive to ignore that.
We have a question here.
How do you incorporate very specific Leicester references like the SAF, other Suisms, with a show that you intend ultimately to tour and hit West End? How do you balance that?
It's exactly like you say. It's a balance. It's there are references to there's references to the Mercury, Leicester Royal Infirmary, Sue's own invention, the Neil Armstrong Comprehensive School, which is where Adrian goes. Pandora transfers from Leicester High School for girls. It's a sense of it basically. It's you know.
It's part of the fabric of the world around it, and it's what gives the story a truth, and it gives it a weight, and it gives it a grounding as well. So again, in the same way that we'd be naive to ignore the young people of Leicester who want to be a part of it, that's kind of it's what stitches it all together. So those references are there. It's funny because actually the cul-de-sac that Adrian lives down is also fictional, but it's just something about the way it rolls off the tongue that I think makes it intrinsically Leicester focused. So it's absolutely there in the fabric of the world that we're creating around.
But it's also the way that my family are actually all from Leicester, Wigston, Blaby, Croft, and it's that thing of when I go to my grandma's on a Sunday afternoon, I wouldn't say, "Oh, Grandma, should we go into Wigston?" You know, you don't drop names in for the sake of doing it. It's part of the world that they live in.
How do you intend to get a cast that could be from anywhere mastering the particularly tricky nuances of the Leicester accent?
Voice dialect coaching.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things about casting children in a show like this is there's an extraordinary amount of rehearsal that goes into it, and a lot of support goes into making sure those performances are extraordinary night after night, while also preserving the innocence and the excitement that make it what children come and do it for, because they don't come and do it for a job, they come and do it because it's something that's fun. And I think there's a joy in discovering the nuances of the Leicestershire accent. It's something that Sue talked about a little bit, wasn't it?
We asked her about the accents, and she said just as long as it wasn't West Midlands, Birmingham, she said that's too hard a sound. It's warmer than that.
Yeah. So it's something that she didn't she didn't seem to be particularly fussed about it, but it's something that we, again, trying to get that fabric of the world around him, it has to have that truth, and it's something that we'll be absolutely looking at, and I know Curve is supporting us in giving anything we might need in terms of dialect coach stuff.
Any other questions? No? In which case, all that remains is to thank Luke, Pippa, Jake, Chris and Fiona for being here to launch this amazing project. Thank you all for coming. We're going to have interviews on the mezzanine floor now, so if you want to go out there, please eat those cakes, because my mouth's watering and none of you have eaten them, which is crazy. But thank you very much, and I hope to see you all in March. And there's the producer.
Thank you.
Thank you.